Hey guys, welcome back to Clownfish TV. This is Neon. I am here with Geeky Sparkles.
Hello.
And we're going to talk about this article that just got posted on IndieWire a couple hours ago. That Asian-American voice actors are questioning why white A-list stars are still voicing anime. We knew this was going to happen.
Yep.
Last year, at the beginning of BLM, we had some white voice actors step down from black roles, and then it became kind of a company mandate, especially with Disney, that they weren't going to hire any white actors to do non-white roles and yada yada yada. But we wondered out loud, we're like, how long until they decide that only Asian Americans or English-speaking Asian people can do anime characters? And it looks like that time is coming.
Well, at least some people are complaining about it.
Which means that time is coming.
But I do find there's so much irony in here. It's not even funny. But let's before we get into it further.
Yeah, before we get into it any further, please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants, guys. We're over 191,000 subs, and we do talk about anime. We talk about animation. We talk about Disney. We talk about whatever interests us that day. And we've been sort of watching the anime scene and watching the anime dub scene in particular, because we've got a lot of people, especially working at Funimation, that are kind of, I don't know, gatekeeping, I think
so.
The VA scene, and most of them are white people.
I'm just laughing because by that mandate, stay in your own lane, then I could be cast as this character.
That's true. That actually looks like you.
So with the red hair and then the blue eyes, that would be that. But no, that was played by some of these characters played by Asian people, and I'm like, so that's what the irony is. So these people that are complaining about roles are also talking about how they played other races in roles, and I'm like, but wait, wait.
Yeah, I mean, this is the one thing we talked about when we first started talking about the voice acting situation. We said it actually was good in the fact that, you know, casting was usually colorblind, that anybody of any race or gender could play any kind of character, that you weren't limited by what you look like. It was all about what you sound like. Did you sound right for that character? And even going back to the 1980s, there were little black girls playing little white girls, and nobody
cared.
Yeah, Rainbow Bright was black. Penny from Inspector Gadget was black, and nobody cared.
Both of them have reddish hair, I want to point out. Even though Rainbow Bright's more blonde, but still.
Yeah, kind of orangey. Orangey, I think.
My hair is kind of orangey, though.
That's true. It is.
Anyway,
so yeah, and this went on for a while. We had, Phil Lamar voicing white guys, Asian guys.
Nobody cared.
Nobody cared until last year. And we had a couple of voice actors step down from black roles. They personally did not feel, well, actually, no, walk it back a year or two with the Apu documentary. That kind of kicked things off, because there were people that weren't happy with Apu, Hank Azaria. And now he's going on like some apology tour. It's crazy, but I get it if you personally feel convicted and you think you should step down. But what happened was it kind of became a mandate. You had Disney flat out coming out and saying, hey, we're not going to hire anybody, any white people to do any non-white roles anymore.
Including what's coded.
Coded.
Like, it's a flippin' lion, or it's like an iguana or something like that.
Yeah,
it's
right?
clearly coded, whatever. And I'm like, what kind of, dip are you if you're going to code people, whatever, but based on an animal?
Yeah. So yeah, I just thought it was kind of a weird, like, if it's company mandate, that's weird. And they were recasting everybody, Simpsons and Family Guy, and now voices in the parks and all this. And we said, what's going to happen eventually? You watch. What's going to happen is they're going to turn their attention to anime dub actors and be like, hey, 95% of the characters that you're voicing are technically Asian. So why is it almost an entirely white industry?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but a lot of these characters that they're saying are Asian actually look like Westerners.
They're coded.
They're coded as Westerners.
So
that, if you're going to argue the coded crap, then I'm saying you can't have it both ways, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, so it's interesting. It seems like it's kind of a puff piece for Funimation, but they also throw shade at Funimation. They talk about the white gatekeepers at Funimation, but they said the voiceover actors at Funimation, one of the premier anime entertainment companies working in the field of dubbing and distributing East Asian media, are hoping that those demographics can be changed, that most of the white voice actors, it's too white, They talk about, I think it's Emmy Lowe, Afia Yu, and Sean Gann are just 3 of Funimation's voiceover actors, with Yu and Gann also directing for the company. And all of them are committed to furthering discussions about the role of Asians and Asian Americans in voiceover
Which
roles.
I'm not against. I mean, don't get me wrong. I have no problem if you're the right voice for the part, and I think that's fine. But what gets me is, if you read the article, though, can I see this for a minute? Which I did read through the article. They're talking about the industry and stuff. And they talk about Gann. He was Filipino-American. And he said he saw how Hollywood represented people look like him on screen. There's some ideas about who should be leading a character, what fits the mold, et cetera, et cetera. He says people don't know him. I'm Hispanic, I get Native American, and I played those roles. Well, how very dare you? Because you shouldn't be playing any of those roles unless you're exactly that person. Because you can't have it both ways. You can't argue that we need to hire more Asian American voice actors to play roles because they're animes from Japan, and then say, but I played, like, one girl goes and plays about how she talks about she plays a lot of blondes, and I'm like, but you know what I mean? You can't have it both ways.
Well, yeah, and she says, having the freedom to play outside how your body looks really appealed to me. But it is interesting that, for the past couple of decades, most of the voice actors working in the anime dub scene have been white people. Not all, but a lot of them.
I mean, and a lot of people like to throw their weight around and, try to, like, leverage crap at, different companies and things like that.
Now, this is an interesting thing. Gann says he's aware that predominantly white people in power set up the studios, and they will hire those they're close to and who often look like them. Now, there has been some discussion about the Funimation, the rumored Funimation casting couch, that many of the funny voice roles, not funny haha, but funny Funimation voice roles come from one particular studio and a handful of VAs that are all part of a clique. Now, with this article being put out there, is that still going to be the case? Because I think most of those people, if not all of those people, are white people. Mm-hmm.
But they'll go on about what's right and what's wrong when it's other things like Vic Mignogna. But now that it's going to come back on them, are you going to do the right thing?
You going to do the right thing and step down from your role?
According to these people. I mean, honestly, I don't think these people have any right to tell anybody what they can and can't do after they've voiced characters who look nothing like them themselves. I mean, I get it. There needs to be more opportunity. And I think that should be the same the whole way around.
Yeah.
But, I mean, whoever's the best voice for the character makes the most sense to me. That's how it's been traditionally.
The desire to check now this is interesting. The desire to check a box can also lead to a small group of the same people being promoted, diverse people being promoted everywhere. And on top of that, anime itself is also playing on their own misconceptions of the West. That's true. They do stereotype Americans and Europeans, and it's kind of like, this is
everybody's
really
guilty of that.
Yeah, if you're not familiar with the culture, and we were watching one of the Super Sentai shows, me and Squid King, and they have the one character that's supposed to be
yes, you told me
he's supposed to be an American. He's of Japanese descent, but he's supposed to be an American, and Squid King's like, it's like Johnny Cowboy Man. He comes in with this really stereotypical, and he pretends like he doesn't speak Japanese, but his English is terrible. So it's like he doesn't speak English either. Like, if they actually got a guy that spoke, I forget, I think it was Kaku Ranger, whichever one the third season of Power Rangers was based on. It's that freaking hilarious. Like, I love the show, but it was so weird because I'm like, that's not really right. That's not really right. And I've seen like Western characters before on anime and K-dramas and stuff. I'm like, that's not right. But they're thinking the same thing about us, I'm sure.
Yeah, everybody does that. I'm not going to say that it doesn't happen, because I think every culture stereotypes other cultures because you're not that culture.
Yeah. So yeah, it's really interesting though. They talk about the Miyazaki movies, the Ghibli movies, and they're actually. I
don't disagree with them on this.
I don't disagree with that either.
I don't think they always pick the best people for the jobs on those. They just picked who was most famous that would do it.
Yeah.
I don't disagree with them on that.
That was one thing that Disney did when they brought the Ghibli movies, because they basically were like, it's kind of an unproven brand over here in the States, so let's get some A-listers to do the voice, of the voice acting. And I have a problem with that. I'll tell you the truth. I have a problem with that in general, because I don't think that regular actors sometimes get voice acting because it's so specific. And you get somebody who's just a really good voice actor, and there's so much like inflection and emotion in their voice compared to a regular actor who's might be making all kinds
I think
of
voice
gestures.
acting's harder.
Yeah,
because it's not like you can use your physicality to try to emphasize certain things or to play to the part. I think that's why a lot of times they film actors doing voice acting things for Disney or whatever while they're doing the film, because then they could take some of their mannerisms and put it into the movie. But I think when something's already existing and you have to do a voiceover for it, they should pick whoever can do it best, not whoever is the name.
Well, that's what's going to be really interesting is, basically the rules have to apply to everyone evenly. Either we pick the best person all around for the part, or, we put everybody in their own lane. But what's going to happen, we said this before in the videos where they're, telling white people they can't play POC characters or whatever, it's going to blow back and it's going to be like, well, you're a black guy, you can only play black guys.
But that's
it.
That's what I'm mad about this article for, because they're trying to have their cake and eat it too.
Yeah.
They're trying to, they're like, well, it should only be, like, okay, this sentence. If the character in the story is about a certain culture, a certain lived experience, the more I would really like the actor to have some familiarity with those lived in those spaces. Well, but then the same people that are complaining were going on and doing characters that weren't Asian like them, and that's fine. That's what I have a problem with. Like you're saying, you think it's fair as long as everybody has equal opportunity, but then you're fine with taking advantage of that when it's a character that doesn't look like you. But then when it's a character that has shared experiences with you or looks like you, it should only be you. That's what I have a problem with.
Well, yeah, because it's like it's what is the step? What are the rules?
I have a problem with that. Either if you're going on about, well, it's fair if Scarlett Johansson can play in Ghost in the Shell as long as I can play. So unlike me would have an equal shot at Black Widow. You say that in one hand, and then the next sentence you're like, but they should have experience with that. Before that's more like their culture. They should be allowed to have it. Then by that argument, you're not Russian either. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah.
I'm just saying. I'm just like,
neither is she.
Right,
so
right.
Like,
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I'm just like, this ridiculous. This whole when you have to put everybody that to stay in their own lane, they want to make those comments. So at the end of the day, the article should be more about we need to have more opportunities for diverse people in voice acting. That I would accept. But when you're trying to say that the reason that should be allowed is because it's not fair. Otherwise, you just stay in your own lane and then talk about how you didn't stay in your own lane. That's not the same thing.
Yeah. Well, it's weird because the tone of this article changes. And
this is all over the damn place.
Yeah. Well, it starts out like, hey, Funimation's doing some cool things and Funimation's great. And Funimation, they're actually hiring diverse actors to voice Asian characters. Imagine that. But then it gets down here, and they're throwing shade at Funimation. Get this. It's, again, why there's more freedom within Funimation, the excitement and thrill of audiences being able to see themselves on screen, while those behind the screen are also getting a chance to show what they're capable of as performers, basically look the part, right? For Yu and Gan, they've also had the opportunity to be directors for Funimation, but even that journey has been reliant on those with power who are also white. This was not written the way Funimation probably wanted it to be written. This is interesting. They basically said, hey, the white people still control Funimation.
Yeah.
Funny's too white.
I'm just sitting here like, wait. But when you go to these companies in Japan that make the animation, they're all very Asian and they're hardly any white. Why isn't anybody going, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. That's my point. It's like you guys are so double standarding it. It's ridiculous. I know your takeaway is, I know you're going at it as they're putting out that, it's a lot of white people that are making the calls. And then you're talking about how the voice actors that are throwing the most shade at everybody and causing the most drama are also white and should be giving up their seats to Asian people. Yeah. I'm taking it as, this is completely absurd because what they're complaining about, it's like, they're guilty of the exact same things, and they're complaining about how it's all white people running the American, and the Western, groups like Funimation, but overseas the companies that make these animes and stuff, it's all Asian people, and there's hardly anybody white that's white over there. And and how many white people get to voice characters in Asia?
Well, okay, so that's
what I'm saying. Potato. You can't have it both ways.
That is probably going to change, unfortunately, because the West is pushing into anime pretty hard. Netflix.
Well, they have the money and they'll probably demand it.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, it's just like either it's equal to everyone, or you stay in your own lane. But they want everybody to stay in their own lane when it benefits them. You know what I mean?
That's
I'm more for equality, for everybody gets a chance than I am to stay in your own lane.
That is true of everybody for everything.
Yeah.
It's basically, if it benefits you, you're okay with whatever cause. And this is everybody. Everybody's.
Yeah, I agree.
I'm including myself in this too. People will usually push for whatever cause benefits them. I've noticed there's a difference between, if you want to get into like socioeconomic classes, people who push more for socialist type things tend to not have a lot of money because it would benefit them to have a lot of programs be paid for because they don't have a lot of money. Whereas if you move up the financial food chain and you've got a lot of money, you don't want to part with that money. So you tend to want to be more conservative and not want to pay taxes, etc., because that benefits you personally. That's just kind of how everybody is.
And at the end of the day, though, I'm just like, you're gonna make this argument, you have to be consistent. And I guess my thing is, I think everybody should have the opportunity. I don't think just white people should have the opportunity. I agree with them on that regard.
Yeah.
But the way it was set up and the way it was working was that it was based on who had the voice that fit the character. And now we have this push to stay in your own lane and diversity. And it doesn't necessarily mean that's the best person for the character. A white person might not be the best person for the character on this one character. And one of these people complaining about it might not be the best person for the character on another character. And they go on about how people should let them do it because they're Asian characters, as they talk about how they played characters that weren't Asian.
Yeah.
I'm just like,
yeah. It's going to be really interesting to see if this push changes how the dub industry looks.
Your whole thing is, you're like, these people that are causing the most shit in VAs are mostly white people, a lot of them white women, and you're basically like, are they going to step down?
They're not going to step down.
They're going to put their money where their mouth is for all their, this person's terrible, but and this cause and that cause. And that's kind of where you're coming from it as. I'm just looking at the article at face value and being like, wow, this is a lot of, double speak.
I'm trying to figure out what the actual point of the article is. It looked like originally they were trying to go to bat for Funimation. Like, look how progressive Funimation is.
Well, that's because Funimation's hired them.
Right. And then as you go down, you're like...
But it's not enough.
Right.
Basically, this article is Funimation's great because they gave us a chance. We should get all the shots at playing the Asian characters because we're of Asian descent instead of having people that are white playing the characters. And it ends with Funimation's shit because it's still run by white people and they're still getting to make the decisions and they're hiring their friends.
Yes. It
I still stand by what I said.
It starts out as being Funimation's great, and by the end, it's like Funimation is too damn white. That's how the article ends.
And it might be. But then any animation studio overseas in Japan is too Asian then. I mean, this is, we could play this game all day.
Yeah, so...
I just think whoever is the most qualified for the position should get the position. And if she's great at playing a blonde girl, then she should play the blonde girl. If she's great at playing the characters that look like her, then she should play the characters that look like her. I'm just like, but this whole idea that you have to simultaneously stay in your own lane but let them play whatever they want is ridiculous.
That is true.
It's a double standard and a half.
Well, it's kind of happening with African American voice actors too, where they're like, okay, well, fine, white folks don't voice black folks, but we also can voice.
But what about countries that you go to that they have a lot of people who aren't the same, that they have no Asian people in it, or very few Asian people in it, and they're trying to voice characters that are Asian? Should they not be allowed to do it because they aren't the right type of person?
Twitter says no because that actually happened.
I know, I remember.
Yeah, and they had a shit fit. They're like, you're telling me that there weren't enough, whatever kind of and it's like they're like, no.
Everybody goes
like
on the street and be like, you look Asian, you're going to be the voice actor. It doesn't mean they're qualified.
Yeah, so
doesn't mean they know what they're doing.
There are a lot of things you have to look at. The person's got to be good at their job. I mean, ideally you would try to match up because
ideally, yes.
Ideally,
I see what they're saying. I'm not disagreeing with what they're saying, but I am disagreeing with the point that they're trying to make while simultaneously saying, but we get to do whatever because we're us. Yeah. That's what I have a problem with. I don't disagree that there should be more diversity and that more Asian people and Asian American people should be hired for these roles. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is the people that they interviewed for this are simultaneously saying it's not fair, we should get more roles because white people were running everything, and then going on about how they played characters that didn't look like them, but that was okay when it was them. That's how it comes across.
Yeah, so I am not exactly sure what the intention of this article was.
I don't know what the intention of it is either.
It just...
I know what it was. We need more Asian people in voice acting.
Yeah.
It's too white. That was the intention of this article.
Funimation's too white. That was my takeaway from this. And you can just wrap it up. You could have just called it that. So we're going to wrap this video up.
Yep.
Okay, so please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants, guys. We'll talk later.
Bye.